What we are going to present today has to do with labor inspections, and it's a project that is ongoing. For this part of the project, which is on South America, I have been working with Emiliano, who I think it's present as well in the room. But I will be presenting for both of us. And again, this is an ongoing project, so it's preliminary results and discussions that we want to share with all of you. So thank you for being here today and for listening to us. So as a brief introduction, we all know the platform work model is creating a huge amount of debates, and those debates have a lot to do with which one will be the impact of the model, not only within gig workers and among gig workers, but also across labor markets. And I am, of course, particularly interested in which one will be the effect in the global south. So we all know in this room together as well that despite global evidence on the conditions of work, there is still a lot of lack of clarity around the regulation of digital platform work. We know, and this is the third point I want to make to start, that most states have advanced in the regulation of other areas of platform emergence, like registration of these companies, in taxation issues, in competition law. But and all of this has helped in supporting market functioning, in the reproduction of these and expansion of these markets. And yet the work-related issues are those that remain more contested. This obviously happens in what I have called here wet ground. So this happened when former workers have been facing re-regulation and informality and diminishing protections for a long time, let's say through the neoliberal project since the 80s and 90s and 2000s, when we have seen globally that corporate power has deployed a lot of resources to maintain and increase flexibility, to have as much as they can light regulatory spaces or free regulatory environments across the globe. And I think one of the new things that we are seeing lately is that there is a kind of international and national debate on which one is the state hegemonic project. So the debate we see in the US, but we have seen them also here in the UK around Brexit, and we see them in Latin America with the rise of the far right. That there is a huge debate on which one has to be the project, because the neoliberal one seems to be eroding very fast. So there is a discussion on the state links to political traditions, to party politics, and again to this broad kind of long-term project. So in this context, we have seen the expansion of platform work, and of course some characteristics of platform companies' operations make things even more difficult. One is, of course, the disruptive practices they have, the opacity of their business and managerial modes. Also, the fact that they present themselves as different, that there is a kind of socio-legal imaginary that frames them as, as unique, and that they, kind of allow them to play a very heavy role in how the regulations should be framed. And it seems that they have the right to enforce gig workers' lack of rights globally. And this is something that we will discuss in here, because I think we have a case in which this has been challenged. And also I think there is a discussion on how much the relevance of different regulatory sites and landscape is having. So this is very brief. There has been a lot of research being done on workers' demand, on regulatory protest, on regulatory development and experimentation, and on judicial decisions, on case law, on judicial actions, and on judicial innovation. What we will present today in the next 10 minutes is on that are less looked in research, which are those that the state might be doing, and some states are doing, to apply existing law to platforms, to gig platforms, in this case, for delivery platforms operating in Argentina. So we will be looking at how labor inspectors have been doing their work and what this tells us about, what the state different branches are doing and which kind of conflict and challenges can we learn from that. So to be very brief on Argentinian short history with platforms, platforms arrived in Argentina in 2012. In that case, it was a regional platform called Pedidos Ya, who was operating within the labor contract system, within the framework of labor law. The workers were dependent and they were registered with the company, and they slowly moved into similar modes of operation as international companies, but they remained with this model until 2019 or 20, when the competition was making them impossible to operate in such a way. And we will discuss this in a minute in more detail. Then Uber and other companies arrived in Argentina in 2016, a bit late, but they were waiting for a political moment to do so, and they waited for a change of government to arrive to Argentina. They all registered as suppliers of information. And since then, there has been a huge debate on bill draft, judicial action, opposition, and workers organizing and so on in the country. The labor inspector did something very special, and that's what we want to highlight today, which was initially started a very early reaction to the presence of platform by doing, at the national level, by doing some research on the operations. Some of the results of that initial research was a collaboration with the ILO office in Argentina, and in between 2018 and 2019, so a year and a half or 2 years after the international platforms arrived in the country, and they did a series of interviews, surveys, and so on that led to this first report, which was a report by the ILO. This, in my understanding, show what kind of capabilities the labor inspectorate had in Argentina, and this has a small history. I'm not going to go in, but it has a context in which this particular aspect of the Ministry of Labor was reinforced and enlarged during the 2000s and between 2003 and 2015 as part of a strategic plan of the Argentinian government. And the collected information was very broad, and the conclusions that they were, they put forward in 2018-19 was that the platform companies were having full control of the workforce and directing, the organization and administration of work, paid, and so on. So workers should be under collective bargaining agreement existing in the country for the sector, which was delivery of goods and food. But the political decision was not to take action. So the national administration was very interested in knowing more about the sector, but not so interested in doing something about it. And they actually didn't take any action at the moment. As someone told us during the interviews, someone coming from, working in the Ministry of Labor at the moment, they were allowed to understand what was going on, but they were not allowed to move forward into any kind of, application of existing law, fines, or anything like that. And then what happened was that the situation, moved into an erosion of that central state power into the district. And some different districts did differ in the political agendas, because obviously national administration and local ones were not in all the cases in the same political party. So some of them moved into regulating platform work using, for example, indirect regulation, passenger transport transit codes, and only one of them, the province of Buenos Aires, took what was being done in the national level and moved it forward for inspecting and actually trying to reinforce the regulation by 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 doing fines and following the cases for registration of these workers. And that is the case that we are working on. So the province of Buenos Aires, again, under a different administration in the national government, decided to develop targeted tools to capture what was new on platform work. And they made these new tools very comprehensive, trying to contribute to case law in the future and to regulatory reinforcement. They then issued technical and public reports, and they did fine the companies for non-compliance with employment law. So they basically challenge this platform exceptionalism idea and try to reinforce the existing framework. The fines were obviously contested in labor tribunals. They were all upheld by different three tribunals of labor tribunals in Argentina, Buenos Aires, and they are now waiting for Supreme Court decisions. This also puts forward for us some of the limitations of these actions to actually force change, because of course, because the time of the proceedings is so long, and this has been there for 3 years, workers didn't get any result out of it, and that has kind of undermined the actions and also the legitimacy of a state action. I'm finishing with this. The study, in my view, shed light to some ignored state actions relating to this work. It also shows, the challenges for the application of national and international regulations, such as those related to inspection, but also how possible it is to apply this to platform work, because it's a practical example of that this can be done even when the workplace is not a traditional one. Also, it shows that allowed us to discuss the complexities surrounding the state regulatory reach, and more important for me, allowed us to start a discussion within employment relations research and sociology of work research on the present dispute around the state role in regulating employment relations. So this is all from me. I don't want to make it longer, to take more time than what was established. So this is all from me now. Thank you.